Are you ready? Are you ready to find out what the relevant research is on an antiviral lifestyle and how it's going to impact your health, your well-being? It's going to be a ride. We're going to have some fun today. I'm Dr. Donald DeFabio, and it's going to be an exciting 20 minutes about creating your own personal antiviral solution. That's right. We're going to talk about viruses. You know, those things that get into your computers, right? It gets in the computer, it finds a way to get inside the computer, and it lives there. And sometimes it just lives in one part of the computer. Sometimes it affects a couple of parts of the computer. It gets into the hard drive, and then it goes over to the audio chip. Or maybe it messes up your graphics chip, and you can't do fast graphics. You can only do slow graphics. Maybe it gets all the way into the hard drive and it blows it out and it shuts the whole computer down. So it could have local effects. It could have many different effects. It can knock the whole computer out. It could erase stuff forever. Viruses do that. And guess what? We're going to use that same analogy for the little bugs in the environment. Those viruses too. They are also parasites. Just like those parasites that stick on the emails that try to get into your computer. And they're always looking for a way to get in. They're always looking for a way to break through the wall, right? We have antivirus software on our computers. It's that wall. Have you checked your wall? Have you updated your wall? Do you have the latest updates? Well, in reality, the microorganism of a virus is coming up against the wall of your body, your cell membrane wall specifically. And it's looking for nooks and crannies, ways to sneak in, ways to hide itself, just like a virus hides itself getting into your computer. It's the same idea. So what we want to talk about is how you can, with lifestyle changes, with natural things you can do that's substantiated in the research, that'll help strengthen your cell membranes, that'll help make you more resistant to any viral infection, and have it make it more difficult for those viruses to trick your cells to let them get in, okay? And something else I want to just talk a little bit about as a sidebar, and we'll have a bunch of these sidebars today, is that those viruses that are microorganisms, sometimes they have these coatings on them that are kind of greasy. And if they have a greasy coating virus, those viruses don't like soap and water. That's why washing your hands with soap and water works, like the coronavirus, like H1N1 virus. They don't like soap and water. The rhinovirus, your common cold, they don't have that greasy membrane, so soap and water isn't such a big deal. But the bottom line is, naturally, our cells are pretty tough to penetrate. And when the virus is able to latch on and find a susceptible cell, that's when we get into trouble. And we're not going to let that happen. Because when the virus gets in those cells, it does the same thing as in your computer. It starts to multiply. It starts to change, it starts to evolve, and then if it takes over the cell and goes to more cells, it impacts the end organ, whether it's your lungs, whether it's your sinuses, whether it's your kidneys, whatever it is, whether it's your graphics card or your memory card. It's still going to affect it the same way. So what is your antiviral program? Well, it's four simple things. It really is. It's looking at how viruses in the environment get in. Well, they get in through breakdowns in cells, all right? Whether it's an external or internal on your skin or in your mucous membranes or gets inside your body, it has to get through the cells. So that means we need like a virus sweep. And in our bodies, that's innate immunity. That's what we call innate immunity. And when your innate immunity, when your immune system is working well, it's boosted up. It's like me, it's all revved up. Guess what? It can fight off those viruses. They get in your body, but they don't do anything because we're able to sweep them out. We're able to shut them down. We're not going to give them the chance to latch on and get into the cells. So that means The third step is becoming less susceptible so that the viruses are all over, germs are all over, but we need to become less susceptible. How do we become less susceptible? We have to look at our internal biochemistry. And the big name for that, I've coined this term biochemical prophylaxis. We're changing our internal biochemistry to prophylactically prevent us from getting sick. And there's some very easy steps to do that that are well referenced in the literature. So let's look at some statistics though, all right? Because this is not just me saying these things. That is my forte, is to get information and integrate it from all these different sources. But let's look at some statistics. The Spanish flu back in 1918, they found out that malnutrition, both overnutrition and undernutrition, over and under malnourishment, was linked to a worse prognosis. Those people didn't do so well. In the Asian flu, 1859, it was the late 50s to 1960, the Asian flu came around, and in 1968 it was the Hong Kong flu. Those both showed that obesity and diabetes led to a higher mortality rate as well as prolonged duration of the illness. And this is out of the research, okay? Looking back at this. So now let's look at 2009, the H1N1 flu. Obesity again was linked to an increased risk of a more severe expression of the disease and a risk factor in both hospitalization and death. So are we seeing a pattern here? I think so. All right, we're seeing a pattern. And that was just published in March 2020 by Lazule. Obesity is directly related to your risk for any viral infection. Any viral infection. All right? Malnourishment is also linked to the risk of any viral infection. So guess what? This is a problem. Central obesity, the big belly, and eating high caloric foods that are nutrient poor is a problem. All right? And we're going to talk about diets and what research says about diets in terms of health, wellness, and an antiviral lifestyle in a moment. So let's again look at what the research has told us about obesity and influenza, flus in general. If you are obese, you are going to throw off more viruses. You're going to shed more viruses. You have a delayed immune response. That means it takes longer for your immune system to kick in, and it's going to take longer for your immune system to fight off stuff. Remember we talked about viruses and how you have to keep them out? Well, if it takes longer for your innate, your natural immune system to jump on board to attack that virus, to put up the wall, if it takes longer, you're going to get a higher chance of getting sick. When you're obese, you have a lower respiratory volume. You breathe from here. You're a chest breather, right? And you breathe hard and heavy. So you're a chest breather, you're breathing from here, and you're throwing off a lot of viruses. So if you are getting sick, you're throwing off a lot of viruses, but if you aren't getting sick, you're not getting a lot of air into your lungs and out. So those viruses get in and they hang out. And when they hang out, they find a home. When they find a home, they keep chipping away at those cells and they find those most vulnerable cells, and that's how they get in. And also if you're obese, and this is all in the medical literature, if you do happen to get a virus of some sort, the inflammation that's related to obesity favors a more virulent, a more novel strain, aggressive strain of that virus to taking hold. So those are all the problems that relate to flu and obesity. And oftentimes, as a sidebar, people who have the flu are very sedentary. And when you're very sedentary, you don't have that respiratory volume and you're not exercising. We'll also talk about how exercise boosts your immune system. But what happens to people who are obese? Well, they have a tendency not to exercise, to sit around a lot. It's all tied together. It's all tied together. So that's the first thing you can do is prevent the inflammation. Now, currently right now when I'm filming this, COVID-19 is raising havoc in the world. What are some of the risk factors that the research is telling us about COVID-19? You are more at risk for a serious reaction to COVID-19. You have poor nutritional status. Sound familiar? We knew that back in 1918 from the Spanish flu. And what if you have a pre-existing non-communicable disease such as diabetes, such as chronic lung disease, or cardiovascular disease, hardening of the arteries, high blood pressure? Those are all chronic diseases. Those three diseases are directly related to a poor outcome with COVID-19. Guess what? Those three diseases are also characterized by systemic low-grade inflammation. So what do we know from the research so far? We know that obesity favors a worse response for any flu. We know that chronic low-grade inflammation favors these non-communicable chronic diseases, which lowers your immune response, makes you more susceptible for a more severe reaction to COVID-19. And that was just published. So as we talk more about this concept of reducing chronic low-grade inflammation and creating that prophylactic biochemical profile, what do we have to look at? We have to look at exercise. We have to look at diet. Supplements help, but if you're not eating good food, if you're eating poor food, if you're eating white flour, white sugar, fried foods, calorically high, nutrient low, you will be malnourished. Even though you may not be, you may be of normal weight, you can be still malnourished. You can be still inflamed if you have normal weight, if you're eating the wrong foods. And then we also need to look at stress and sleep as it drives low-grade inflammation as well. So it's not just fat that's the problem. It's something called adiposopathy. Your fat cells actually get inflamed. That's when we get into trouble, okay? Because chronic low-grade inflammation of your adipose tissue, that creates meta-inflammation, overall inflammation in your body. And that relates directly to those chronic non-communicable diseases that have been linked as risk factors for other health issues. So this is how it's all starting to tie together, all right? So what's the first thing you got to do if you want to get your body weight in line? That's a no-brainer. It's exercise, all right? So exercise is directly related to improving your immune response. Let's get specific though. It's low to moderate intensity exercise, not high intensity exercise. It's low to moderate intensity exercise on a consistent basis. That's very, very important. And that's the first step you can do to start reducing your risk for adiposopathy or chronic meta-inflammation, all right? And everybody can do that. It could be walking. It does not have to be much more aggressive than that, okay? Because we need to really look at that whole situation of excess body weight, all right? The excess body weight is a real indicator of your risk for getting sick. Now, you can have excess body weight and not be inflamed, and you could have normal body weight and be inflamed. So it goes back to what you're eating. But the bottom line is lean people with lean adipose tissue where your fat cells are small and they're not big will have a higher anti-inflammatory response. They'll have more antioxidants in their body that can fight what's called free radicals and oxidative stress. They're going to react to insulin better. They're not going to have insulin sensitivity, which is a huge problem. And they're going to have good blood flow and circulation. Whereas a big fat cell or large obese fat cells, too many of them, that drives inflammation, that drives free radical production or oxidative stress, that drives insulin resistance, all right? That means you're having a problem breaking down your sugars and your blood sugar level gets real high. When your blood sugar gets high, hyperglycemia, insulin resistance, those are one of those non-communicable markers of disease, all right? Those are chronic disease. And also that obese dysfunctional adiposopathy tissue, that's going to give you dysfunctional circulation and blood flow. So it's all tied together, overnutrition and malnutrition relating to your ability to maintain a strong immune system. So I talked about it real quick, but let's give you some specifics about sleep and stress. Sleep and stress, what do? They get you to eat comfort foods, fried foods, sugary foods, foods that have low nutrient value, a lot of satiety, they make you full, bad fats, right? That drives inflammation. And sleeping has got to be good quality and good quantity. 6 to 8 hours of quality sleep a night. If you're not getting enough sleep, that's directly related to, number one, inflammation, but number two, weight gain. If you're having problems losing weight and you're not sleeping right, guess what? Maybe that's the problem. So you got to get enough good quality sleep, directly related to keeping your inflammation levels down. See how inflammation, obesity, diet are all starting to fall into this whole picture? And this is all well evidenced in the research, all right? So nutrition plays a significant role in various outcomes. And this is going back to that research that Zagatakis mentioned, okay? And he talked about specific diets that impart an anti-inflammatory effect without creating immunosuppression. So we want to get the inflammation down, but we want to boost the immunity. And we're going to talk about a Western diet, we're going to talk about a Mediterranean diet, and we're going to talk about an anti-inflammatory diet. And this is right out of his research paper. Because according to him, to maintain a healthy immune system, special attention must be given to maintaining a healthy diet, a healthy lifestyle, and a healthy exercise regime with minimal stress. There you go. So the Mediterranean diet, we know what that is. A little bit of grains, lots of fresh fruits and vegetables, olive oil, lean meat. All right? It's pretty straightforward. Not a lot of fried foods aren't there. Minimal white flour, no real white sugar. All right? Well established, it's a healthy diet. It's going to be high in your vitamins, and these are the ones your take-homes. If you want to take supplements, these are the same vitamins you want to take. Are C. Now, vitamin D we'll talk about in addition, because you can't just get that from food. You have to get it from the sun. But vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, and then the minerals zinc, magnesium, and calcium. Those are the ones you got to get to boost your immune system. Are there others? Sure, there are, but those are your basic ones that are shown in the medical research. Fiber, very, very important for your health. Why? Because it prevents your blood sugar from spiking. There's two things that'll create a blood sugar spike in your body. An imbalance between your good fats and your bad fats. Your omega-3 fatty acids suppress inflammation. Your omega-6 fatty acids drive inflammation. So we want to keep those omega-3 fatty acids high. And the other thing is blood sugar spikes. Every time you eat, your blood sugar spikes. If it spikes high and stays up long, high glycemic index, high glycemic load, you will have more inflammation from that meal, even if it was good food. You have lots of fiber in that meal, boom, it brings down that glycemic load, all right? Now let's compare that to the Western diet. That's what most Americans eat. Grain-based, high in omega-6, pro-inflammatory. Lots of white flour. Everything's supersized. Look at all the soda we drink, the white sugar, right? And it's directly related to diabetes mellitus, hypertension, those chronic non-communicable diseases we talked about a moment ago, and hyperglycemia, high levels of blood sugar. That's why the typical Western or American diet drives inflammation. That's why Advil as an over-the-counter medication is one of the most common, because we're all inflamed, because we eat like this on a regular basis. So let's go to what's called a Mediterranean, or even better, an anti-inflammatory diet, which is 5 to 7 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, which is lean protein, fish, poultry, all right? And if you do have meat, red meat, it's got to be grass-fed, because omega-3 fatty acids, which suppress inflammation, are found in vegetation and in foods that eat vegetation. Fruits and vegetables are excellent. You need to get your nutrients. That's where all your minerals are. That's where all of your vitamins are. So, and the phytochemicals are antioxidants. They suppress the oxidative stress. Polyphenols are really, really important. They've been shown to be effective against the Zika virus, dengue fever, and the West Nile virus. Polyphenols are in veggies, are in fruits. So they also give you lots of fiber, keeps that blood sugar down. Now, the anti-inflammatory diet I told you was high in omega-3 fatty acids. Well, why? Because omega-3 fatty acids are part of the cell membrane. They're a very important part of the cell membrane. So if you get the right amount of omega-3 fatty acids, it's going to make your cell membranes tougher, stronger, more resilient. It's going to keep those viruses out. And we found that fish oil fed mice, they demonstrated better resistance to infection. And they had better anti-inflammatory properties. All right? And it helps with hypertension, high blood pressure, it helps with inflammation, and it keeps your immune system better modulated. Omega-3 fatty acids, fish oils, vegetation. What is an anti-inflammatory diet? We've talked about it. It's a lifestyle, and you can eat on it your whole life. And you're looking at me right now, and I got news for you. I'm alive because I was on an anti-inflammatory diet. That's my story. My brother died of a very serious heart complication at 58 years old. The same thing happened to me at 59 years old. I'm still alive. Why? Because I led an anti-inflammatory lifestyle. So an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, yes, will reduce your risk for getting a flu or a virus, but more importantly, it reduces your risk for your personal genetic expression of disease. That's right. It prevents the smoking gun from going off, and it keeps you as healthy as you can be. Beverages on an anti-inflammatory diet: herbal teas are great, green tea is the best, ginger tea is excellent, stout beer if you want it occasionally, red wine if you want it occasionally. And, there it is, healthy diet. Fruits, vegetables, salmon, poultry, vegetation. It's a healthy diet. There was a research article that came out about anthocyanidins and against obesity. Anthocyanidins basically are found in things like red cabbage, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, your berries. And chronic low-grade inflammation plays a pivotal role in the pathogenesis of obesity. This is what Lee found in his article, okay? Lee also stated that targeting inflammation is an effective strategy to counter the burden of obesity-induced health problems. Furthermore, Lee continues, food-derived bioactive compounds have been spotlighted as a regulator against various chronic diseases due to low toxicity, as opposed to drugs that induce severe side effects. And this is medical research. Nutrients was the article, journal this was in. And this review discussed the interplay between inflammation and obesity. How many times do we have to say it? Inflammation, obesity, disease, infections, flus. And he suggested an anti-inflammatory lifestyle as an alternative dietary strategy to ameliorate obesity and obesity-associated chronic diseases. I did not edit that at all. That is directly out of Lee's paper. It's not my opinion. This is what is in the research, and that's what makes it relevant. And you need to know it, okay? Less heart disease in France. They drink red wine, and they have blood oranges over there. Blood oranges are high in those anthocyanidins too. They eat lots of berries, all right? They are really, really good. Blueberries improve insulin sensitivity. Red cabbage decreases your overall weight and bad cholesterol, all right? Tart cherries, high in antioxidants, decreases metabolic inflammation. They're just great. So get them into your diet. So we talked about a lot of stuff today. And I kind of jumped all over, and I kept trying to bring it back. Because your antiviral wall, you are in control of. You don't have to go and look any more than your lifestyle. But that doesn't make it easy. You have to look at your food choices. You have to look at your exercise choices. You have to look at your supplement choices if you're taking them. You have to look at how much sleep you're getting, your lifestyle. You have to look at how much stress you're under. And you may have to change one or all of those. And that's not always easy, to give up your old-fashioned Dunkin' Donut. All right? You can have black coffee, but no extra light, extra sweet. So I'm not saying it's easy, but it's doable. The big difference between your antivirus system and going to buy McAfee or Norton antivirus is one's passive and one's active. You have to decide if you want to invest in your health and in your quotient of health care exchange for the next 30, 40, 50 years that you're going to be alive. And that's where your anti-inflammatory lifestyle comes in. That's where reducing obesity comes in, and all those things we talked about. All right? That's your biochemical prophylaxis. You want to avoid that central obesity, the old fat, the beer belly, and prevent your fat from getting inflamed, that adiposopathy. A lot of information. Thanks for hanging in there with me. And I hope it was thoughtful. I hope it was thoughtful, because now it's up to you to decide what's next, because the research is there. Take action and make it happen. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's been great to spend some time with you. And yeah, I look forward to seeing everybody on our next talk. Have a great day. I'm Dr. Donald DeFabio, and today's product spotlight is Omax 3. It's a fish oil supplement, and it's really one of my favorites. Why? Because omega-3 fatty acids will take the membrane of your cells and make them more stable, increases fluidity, we call it, of the membrane, which makes it more resilient for bad guys to get into the cell, and keeps the good things in the cell better. So it makes your cells work better. Reduces inflammation. It helps to modulate or maintain an adequate immune response. And it's got a ratio of 3-to-1 of your active fish oils, EPA to DHA. And they tweak their ratio of EPA to DHA, and I want to applaud them for that, because by adding more DHA, it's going to help more with nerve health. So I think that's really great that they're continuing to improve their product. They've also enteric coated it, so it doesn't open up until it gets into the intestines. So that means no fish burps, not that this had fish burps in the past. These are blister packed, so they're kept air free so they don't get rancid. And it is a ultra pure formulation. They call it the Clear Choice, but it's a purified fish oil. Your fish oil must be purified, because if it's not purified, research has shown it'll drive free radical production, and it'll actually not be as beneficial. So it is an excellent choice for us as well. Omax 3, check it out, and it's one of my favorites. Have a great day.